Staging Change Chicago is a social justice organization whose mission is to create social transformation and awareness through the powerful tools of art and connection. Our mission is simple: supporting and amplifying Black voices and Black-led organizations throughout Chicago. We want to aid in rebuilding the Chicago arts community landscape to prioritize Black empowerment and liberation. Enter Brave Space Alliance, the first Black-led, trans-led LGBTQ center located on the south side of Chicago, and the only center of its kind to serve Chicago's south and west sides. As their mission states, we strive to empower, embolden, and educate each other through mutual aid, knowledge sharing, and the creation of community-sourced resources as we build towards the liberation of all oppressed people. And as you'll find out in the following interview, you better believe they walk the walk. I had the pleasure of speaking with Jae Rice, their communications and outreach coordinator, to talk about the programs and resources the center offers, how COVID impacted their operations, and even touch on how house music is connected to Black queer liberation. But first, a little more about Jae. Cue the intro music. Jae Rice is a trans-masculine public figure fighting for the liberation of oppressed communities on a daily basis. Jae is a DJ, cultural curator, communications and social media coordinator for Brave Space Alliance, a composer and overall practitioner of freedom and intentional justice. Their background in political science and intercultural communication combines with their dedication to the advancement of all Black LGBTQIA+ folks to perpetuate real-time and on-the-ground societal shifts, advancements, and growth. Jae has spent several years creating safe spaces in Chicago that center all Black LGBTQIA+ women, femmes, and AFABs, and is now also devoted to creating and maintaining brave spaces as well. I gotta tell you, I got the hardest time figuring out what to write on my LinkedIn. So I might need your help.
I'm just good at stuff like that.
I see. How are you? So how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm here. It's Monday.
You're right. We're
That's
here.
all
We're alive.
Right.
Yeah.
COVID is still a thing. Racial injustice is still a thing.
Oh,
so,
man.
You know.
Yeah. I know. It's like taking all of that in. You just get used to a new normal. So you wake up and you just try to find the things like, I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to be COVID free. But, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. And I'm excited to get to know more about you and Brave Space Alliance. And so let's start there. I know Brave Space is what I like to call a lean organization. Like, you don't have a lot of people on your board or in your office, but you have so many programs and so many initiatives. Like, it's like a one-stop shop, I think, for like liberation and social justice, economic empowerment.
I like that. I'm going to write that down, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any way I can help, any way I can help. So when did you first come on board with Brave Space, and like what made you gravitate towards the organization?
So I've only been with Brave Space about 6.5, 7 months now. I think people think it's a lot longer than that, but only like 6.5, 7 months. So kind of like the time of the spark of COVID and coronavirus. I'm also a DJ, like you mentioned. So what actually attracted me to Brave Space Alliance is I DJ'd their unicorn ball last year, like on my birthday. It happened to be on my birthday. It was cool. Like the vibes were amazing. I'm a very particular DJ. So that was, it went along very well.
Oh, we'll get into that later. Yeah.
Very well with like their vibe. Not to mention what I also did with like my collective, Small World Collective. I found myself in a lot of the same rooms as LaSaya Wade as well. So that attracted me to them. I was attracted to the face of Brave Space and who LaSaya was as a person and the message that she made sure that everyone in whatever room she was in knew.
Yes.
And that's kind of what it was. So it was that, met her, we were kind of in the same different leadership initiatives at the time. I DJ'd their unicorn ball, and the rest is kind of history. They were hiring.
As like sort of that serendipity, and just to take a moment and say how incredible LaSaya is, and congratulations to her, because I think she was just honored as like one of the 20 most interesting Chicagoans. Yeah, she
so well deserved.
Is a movement within herself. I'm glad that you said that. Sort of y'all were in the same rooms, because when I was reading about Brave Space, community just kept on coming up. Like you talk about the community, you describe yourselves as a community, which means it seems to me that community is a very important element of Brave Space. So could you talk about what community means and like the role it serves in Brave Space's work?
I guess if I had to say, community is everything with Brave Space. It is the bloodline of it. It is the reason we do everything that we do is to serve our community, because no one else is going to do it. And that's just hard facts, right? I think the concept is like we keep each other safe, right? That's something that we hear a lot at protests, at rallies. It's a hashtag, but we really live that. And we're really about that through all of our mutual aid programs, through everything. Like you said, it's a one-stop shop for the oppressed. So yeah, community is literally at the forefront of everything we do as an organization, as a nonprofit. That's what we revolve around.
I think in the mission, it mentions that for us, by us mentality. And it's very much like keeping everything in shop. And like you said, nobody's going to serve your community better than yourself. One of the things that I really appreciate, and we'll get into it with some of the programs that you offer in just a second, is like the idea of like you aren't just giving resources to people. You're teaching them how to leverage those resources and build it for itself, which I think is always for sustainability, and teaching the community to sustain for itself can only empower it more and help it grow. But before we jump into that, I want to talk about the participants who get involved with Brave Space. Like, what impact do you hope to have when somebody gets involved with Brave Space? What are some of the things that you hope these individuals leave with?
Like kind of on a mutual aid level, right? I think that we hope that they leave with more tools that they had when they came in. And it's not just resources, right? It is culturally equitable resources. It is affirming resources. It is intentional resources. So it's not just, there's plenty of stories with NGOs going and building wells over in Africa and not realizing that these wells do not work for this particular climate or this particular area. That's the same thing with nonprofits on a city level. There's so many people that can say, hey, we've got resources for you, right? But who is sitting down and having that time? Like, okay, first of all, going back to community, our facilitators are in the community. So when we have a sex worker support group or a sex worker safety mutual aid group, it is facilitated by actual community sex workers. So again, you're leaving with tools that you did not have, that you cannot get anywhere else, because they're not going to be culturally affirming for you. Right? They're not going to be something that you can comprehend, that you can understand, that's beneficial for you. They're not going to be wrapped up in identity politics versus actually making intentional moves for the community. So it's that idea that when you walk into the doors, especially when we do open back up after things calm down, whenever that is, it is a center where you leave affirmed. And that, I think, personally, is what sets us aside from anybody else doing this work, is that you're going to leave with resources, you're going to leave with tools. And I mean literal resources like, hey, you're having a job insecurity or a housing insecurity issue. We've got a lawyer who works with us for that. You're having a safety issue, let's see, as in regards to HIV. We've got testing, we've got access to testing, we've got all different sorts of actual resources. But you're going to leave with those resources. But more importantly, you're going to leave with those resources and affirmation, cultural affirming affirmations from folks who are actually in your community. So I think that's the most important thing. Without all the resources, we give out bus cards, we've given out gift cards to grocery stores, different groups that you're in, you will actually leave with fresh food, fresh produce and things like that. But outside of that, you're leaving being affirmed. And that's what queer Black people and trans Black people, that's what's often forgotten when it comes to mutual aid for us, is that we still need those affirmations and affirming and culturally equitable resources along with the other resources that people allocate to us.
It sounds like you said, that affirmation, getting that support, that when they walk in the door, they know that they can feel they'll feel welcome, they'll feel at home, because they're seeing individuals who live in their same communities, individuals who relate to them on the same level that they do. And then also real tangible things, like you said, walking out with these supplies, Let's talk a lot about the affirmation. You have the support groups that you have, and you host, I think it's, I read it was 3 support groups. Do you have any more as of right now? But talk a little bit about like the creation of the support groups and where the inspiration for those came from.
Right. Well, the support groups, yeah. So we have three main support groups. One of them is called Rose Petals. That's our support groups for trans feminine women, trans women, anyone along that spectrum. And then we have another one called Boy Talk. That's more geared towards AFABs, trans men, people on the trans masculine spectrum. Then we have Fluid as Fuck. That is our, very non-binary support group for folks who don't necessarily fit into one of the other support groups. This other one is for you. And what that does for the community is it creates space, and not just safe, because we actually shy away from using that word safe spaces, which is why we use the word brave spaces, because there are no safe spaces for us. There are none. All spaces thrive off of our oppression. So there's nothing that we can really, truly be safe in. But we can show up to spaces and be brave in whatever level of braveness that we want, right? So that's what these support groups allow for folks to do, is to show up however they need to show up, and really kind of get whatever's been going on for the week, the day, the month, whatever other issues they may be having. Being able to collaborate and talk with other folks that are going through that is life-changing. And then we have our mutual aid groups, which are part mutual aid, also part support. So like in the first half of their meetings, it's more of a support group. So that's with food and housing insecurity, financial stability, sex worker safety. So those are other groups that are very community-based and are providing that support that people need. And they are centered towards BIPOC folks. We actually just put out a set of instructions.
I know what you're talking about. And you know what? I'm going to tell you right now, I feel like every company should have a standard of conduct for white people.
They should hire Brave Space Alliance. We offer training.
Yes, you do.
And we can do that for you. We can create that for you for sure. I think everyone needs it.
Talk about that standard of conduct that y'all put out.
So we have a standard of conduct for white participants, specifically in these support groups, because we don't want to have Black people feeling like, Black and brown folks feeling that they're being overtalked. We don't want them to feel like they cannot show up in their most authentic and as brave as they want to be selves because of any white influence. And queer or not, whether you are queer, trans, whether you are involved in the LGBTQ community as a white person, that means nothing about your race relations. You can still show up to oppress Black folks. You can still participate in the oppression, whether it's directly or indirectly, and you can still spew your microaggressions onto folks who are there to meet for support. So it was dire and very necessary that we put something like that out.
What I appreciate about that, and also what I appreciated about the support groups, is that we tend to group people in these monolithic terms, right? Where we just create an umbrella for all of them and think that all the needs are the same for everything. And so I think just with the intentional creation of the different support groups that you created, and giving one that was just gender fluid, allows people to see oh, I don't know. I feel like it just like you said, gives more, it allows people to be seen for who they truly are, rather than just sort of lumping in and then talking a lot about intersectional issues, where it's just because, like you said, we may identify in this one identity, but you don't know my issues for these other ones. And which is why I really appreciated that statement that you put out. And like you said, y'all do offer training. Actually, y'all offer a few trainings for it. And I believe just talk about some of the ones that you offer. I think there's Understanding Transness 101. There's also a follow-up training to that one. And then there's just HR in the workplace. So yeah, could you mention those and describe a little bit what each are about?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit on it, because that particular department is not mine, but these are trainings that companies, that groups, social groups, whether professional or not, you can hit Brave Space up, and we will come in there and tell you how to be better. That's what it literally comes down to. We will show you why, things from gender neutral bathrooms, those being this a necessity, to teaching you how to take off certain questions on your application because those are not affirming and those are oppressive in ways. So, it's a range. It's a range, and then there are follow-ups. But
yes.
I recommend that every single company that exists should be taking these trainings because every single company that exists should be trying to create a more affirming space for trans folks, and especially for Black trans folks, Black and brown trans folks. So that's what it kind of comes down to, is trying to make your how can you be better? Here, this is how. We
already listen. Just bring us in. We already have all the answers. Right. We are going to educate you and shifting back to because your mutual aid program, I think, seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like your largest program or most expansive one, because it's 8 months long, right? And there are different individual support groups that you have in there, as well as like different steps to the program. So let's focus more on that for right now. So describe like the overall mutual aid program, the VAMP program, and then the different groups that are incorporated within it.
Yeah, so you've got your, let me make sure I'm saying this correctly. You've got your food insecurity group, food and financial insecurity. You've got a sex worker safety group. And then you've got your financial stability group. And all of those groups you get a certain amount of money allocated within the group. And it's a substantial amount of money. I don't want to misquote though, so I won't say it, but it's a substantial amount. As a group, you decide what type of initiatives you can put in place to help not only you, but the rest of your community in whatever particular group it's in.
Okay.
Right. So our program director, Brittany, would really love to talk about all of that. It can talk about it a little bit more, but that's basically what it is. You do get a budget, a stipend from BSA, and you all come up as a group with how to spend that and how to use that as different initiatives within the community. But the other part to that is that there's also the support group side of each mutual aid.
Got you.
And then this is all wrapped around sort of an umbrella of our VAMP and HIV prevention mutual aid that it all falls under. So yeah.
And one of the core philosophies of that program, right, is just like focusing on sort of a holistic perspective of we're going to help all areas of your life, and hopefully that manifests into a reduction and prevention of HIV and AIDS.
Exactly.
Correct. Now, with the pandemic hitting, I'm sure this is like affected all of this in so many ways. I mean, just the fact of like what you were talking about with the support groups of gathering inside. How has COVID-19 impacted your programming, your operations, and what adjustments have y'all made as a result of that?
How much time do we have?
Yeah.
So right off the bat, we created a Crisis Pantry. That was a direct response to COVID, right? So
that's right, yeah.
At first, this was a temporary initiative, right? You could sign up. You didn't even have to leave your house. There were pre-made bags that we made. We collected donations and different things from the community. We were going shopping at Costco every week and making these bags. And we fed over 15,000 people in the first 3 weeks of that being operational.
I want to be like church and say that again. Say it. Make sure you.
Let me hit you that again. You can turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor. 15,000.
15,000.
And that's in the first 3 weeks, right? So, it got to the point where it's like, okay, we've got to keep doing this, right?
Yes.
But then while COVID had happened, a few months later after that, we have racial uprisings. We have the revolution is here. We have riots. We have stores closing down. We have not looting, but community redistribution and going on. You had a lot, right?
Yes.
So it turns into, people can't afford to buy food because they're laid off or because they're unemployed or furloughed, to the stores have literally closed. So now what are we going to do? Yeah. So it turned from our crisis pantry, which, we had our volunteers. Everything was well-oiled machine. We got volunteers, they come drop it off. It is what it is. Yep. Now it's, people can't get diapers because the bags that we dropped off were food pantry bags, right? Very, very sustainable food pantry bags. But now what happens when people need toothpaste and diapers and Similac and you know what I mean? And things like that. So then we opened up our doors, even before that, we had opened up our doors to protesters when the protests and things were happening in Hyde Park. And that opened us up into, okay, we're taking not only food pantry items, but action support items, jail support items, protest support items, right?
Mm-hmm.
Granola bars, emergency eye wash, mask, gloves, that type of thing. So it turned in from, again, this is just a pantry to, okay, we need to help protesters because Brave Space Alliance was literally formed at a protest. So we are an LGBTQ center, but we also have a responsibility to the folks who are out there leading the movement, which also happen to be Black trans people, Black queer people.
Yes.
So we're not an organizing organization at all. We're an LGBTQ center that stepped up to a call that was needed. We were able to use our network to get supplies for protesters. Yes. We were able to use our network to get supplies to the point where people in the community, whether you were part of the LGBTQ community or not, you were able to come straight up to our office and get a case of diapers, a case of wipes, 3 things of toothpaste, Listerine, in addition to the food pantry items. So we expanded to this. We have this crisis pantry, which is now permanent. And that's what we're also raising money to keep it permanent and sustainable. But the crisis pantry went from a COVID response to okay, not only is COVID here, but Black people are also sick and tired yet again. So things are happening, things are getting disrupted, and things are closing because of that.
Yeah.
So it turned in from, okay, this is a crisis pantry for some of the most at-risk folks. We were doing senior citizens, senior LGBTQ folks, LGBTQ folks as a whole, Black and brown LGBTQ folks. It went from that to everybody cannot eat right now. Everybody does not have diapers right now. You know, it turned into the people who work down the street from our office are now coming in to get baby supplies. And that is what changed. That was the biggest change. And that's one of the biggest changes I'm proud of was turning from this is a crisis pantry to this is just a what the hell do you need? We will get it. We will put a list out on social media and we will have it for you within a couple of hours because there's no one else doing this. And even with that being said, we had so much supplies that we had to open up 2 other locations. So we were at Read Write Library, and that's in Humboldt Park. And then we were at the 33rd Working Wards Family, which is in, I think it's Irving Park, or I might, whatever. It's on, it's on Montrose. It's on West Montrose. So now, as we speak, we have a crisis pantry network. It's not just you putting in an order for a bag to be dropped off. It's not you just coming to our office in Hyde Park. It's you coming in our office in Hyde Park, getting a bag dropped off. You can go to our location in Montrose, and there's a line every Wednesday and Friday because those are distribution days for people in the community, which is a mostly Latinx community. So you could come there and get culturally affirming donations, which is something we can talk about later as well. But you could come there and get those. You can go to Read, Write, and drop off stuff if you want to donate. We also have an extensive donation drop-off site from different companies like Dark Matter Coffee and Cafe Marie G. It's so many different places that you can drop off items that they will give you a discount if you come in and drop off an item for Brave Space. So that list is on our Instagram as well. Intelligente Coffee. There's a few different coffee places and a few different bakeries. My Pie, Pie, My Darling. Several different bakeries and different businesses around Chicago that have partnered with us that you can drop off if you want to donate supplies to us. You can do that. So it's expanded into this one little okay, we need to help people. We need to help feed people. Let's establish and sustain a whole network.
And I think it needs to be said, getting the sense of all of these things were birthed out of necessity because you're the only LGBTQ trans-led organization on the South and West side. And not only that, your crisis pantry is the only one in the Midwest.
Yes.
Which when I found out, I was surprised to know. So do you ever feel a burden of responsibility, or is it more of a sense of duty? I don't think it's ever a burden. Okay.
Even when it's 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm having to take jail supplies to 54th and Wentworth because, the police have attacked a group of young Black folks again. Even at 1 a.m. doing that, that's not a burden. It is a sense of duty. It is a sense of I have no other choice. And it's a sense of I have no other choice to reallocate my own individual privileges in an intentional and equitable way. And that's kind of where, and that is why I was, another reason why I was drawn to Brave Space as an organization. They're intentional as hell. And it's duty. There's no other choice. So yeah, it's definitely just not a burden. It's automatic. It's automatic at this point. And I wish that more people who had privileges to reallocate, I wish it was more automatic for them as well.
So you say that, right? And I know, I believe it was on July 17th, you spoke at a Black and Indigenous Unity protest. And you had this pretty powerful speech. You mentioned the term aggressive allyship during that speech. Now, could you talk about what you meant exactly by that, and how can those outside of the Brave Space community, i.e. white folk, cis folk, how can they promote and employ aggressive allyship? Is it putting your money where your white guilt is?
You've done some research on me.
Listen, I like to come prepared.
That's my line at all the speeches. Oh man, I love saying it too. I love it because white people be like, "Yes, I should." Yes.
Yeah. And why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
Right. Yeah. And that speech that you mentioned particularly, that was a hard day.
Yes.
That was a real hard day. That was a hard day to feel a police officer's baton on my body. That was hard.
Yeah.
But what was even more, I don't want to say hard, but inspiring was to see all those kids out there. You know what I mean? I'm not a kid anymore.
Yeah.
And to see like the youth, I'm like, whoa, y'all are winning.
I know. Powerful voices and standing in it.
So I felt like in all, like even being able to talk in the places that we talk in and being able to help in the way that Brave Space is able to help, I always like to say, I am not an activist. I'm not that. I'm more of like a protest uncle. You know what I mean? I come in like, y'all got Gatorade. You know what I mean? I come in.
Y'all good? You good? Are you fed?
Do we have legal observers here? Like, what is your name in birth? What is your birthday?
Yes, which is good because being young, you're so full of passion, so full of hormones, you don't even think about that stuff.
Yes.
And so you need the elder states people to look out for you.
For sure. And that's the type of role Brave Space likes to take in this. You know what I mean? We're not an organizing organization. We do that. But that speech, talking about what did I say? Aggressive allyship.
Aggressive allyship.
So it is more than just, well, you know what? I bought a Black Lives Matter pin and I did my thing. It's not like, I looked to see where the profits of that pin were going. There's the aggressive part, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's that faux, on the surface, I'm not racist. My best friend is Black versus I'm not racist. I'm about to put my body in between you and this cop. There, you know what I mean? I changed, my Facebook or icon to a black dot. And then there's, hey, I pulled my car over when I saw a Black person getting stopped by the police and I took my phone out and I waited for them to go off with their business. There's that. So there is, and that's the only thing that I can take right now. And that's just speaking as me, as personally. I need you to not only donate, I need you to donate every month. I need you to not only donate, I need you to think about what you're donating, which is why it prompted me to put out, we need culturally affirming donations. It's not enough for you to clean out your pantry and think that you did something good. No. I want you to go to the store. I want you to think about who you're donating to. I need you to think about what they have available and how can you help? You know what I mean? Culturally affirming donations. You need to have culturally affirming allyship. So don't come to a Black Lives Matter movement and talk over Black folks. Don't come to the march and think that you should be in front. Get your ass in the back. Don't, you know what I mean? That's where the aggressiveness comes from. And the aggressive threshold doesn't even, it's not that high with me.
I know.
Just
Yeah,
do
I
it.
know. It's hard to sometimes not to call it the bare minimum, but like you're right. A friend of mine put it so perfectly. It was like, are you willing to put your privilege on the line? You
Mm.
know, are you willing to let go of some of the privileges you've been afforded so that people can have more? And you are right. It isn't enough to just sort of symbolically have these moments where you're saying, I did enough. I did my part. I'm a good person. It's going further. And like you said, I think that visceral image that you said of putting your body in between somebody's and a cop's sort of symbolizes, because it's saying, I'm going to put something at risk for myself, for you. And you're right. I think that needs to happen. And can you talk a little bit more about the affirming donations, like the intentional affirming, like when you're going to the store, what that means exactly?
Right. So, for instance, we have our, like I said, the one on Montrose for the 33rd Working Families, the pantry there. It is a very high Latinx community. So when I go in there and I ask them directly, what is it that you all want? It isn't necessarily at Trader Joe's. And hey, I love Trader Joe's. I love Whole Foods.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
But I know you love Whole Foods. I've seen your Instagram.
Exactly. So like, hey, that's one thing, right? But I also know that I'm dealing with a predominantly Latinx community. So they want tortillas versus bread. They want powdered laundry detergent versus liquid laundry detergent. They want canned peppers and canned beans, and black beans specifically, not like kidney beans or anything like that. Smaller jars of tomato sauce versus the really big ones. And that even goes into something different. So listen, Costco is a great place, right, for everything. But when you're buying big jars, so when I say affirming, I don't even just mean culturally. I mean logical at this point. Don't donate a huge jar of something to a pantry where, okay, first of all, some of this population may be homeless. Not only that, some of this population is on the bus. Some of this population is walking. So these big things, first of all, we're not able to feed as many people with it. And secondly, you're not thinking about maybe how somebody had to get to that pantry. You're assuming they have a car like you.
Yeah.
Wow. So it breaks it down to not only like culturally affirming, but like, okay, let's think common sense here with people who are visiting a food pantry. Why are we giving them huge things of something? Let's make it smaller, and then we can feed more people.
And you just put me on game on something, because I remember when I first heard about the Crisis Pantry. I think there was a food drive that a group of theaters did, About Face Theater, Raven Theater, I think the Steep Theater did, for a Brave Space. And I remember looking at the list, and I had that moment in the store of like, I just automatically thought like, let me get the biggest box that I can, and then, give it to them. But none of those things even crept up into my mind about the people that I'm serving. So right now I'm sitting up here going like, if I would have gone back and to have done that again, my whole basket would have been different as a result. Now, one of the things that I had read about was Brave Space wants to expand their service to offer mental health services. Is that correct? Or
I believe so. Well, again, COVID has put a damper in a lot of things. So a lot of things have just been put on hold. There's a lot of things that I don't know about.
Okay, all right, got you. Because I was going to ask you, like, if you're looking for mental health professionals, and what are you looking for? But
I believe we are, and I believe we are always looking for those to kind of be a part of different support groups, even in unofficial ways. We're always looking for BIPOC folks. Whatever services that you think you could offer, you can always email Brittany at bravespacealliance.org and see if your services could be used.
Okay. All right. Now, I do want to learn more about DJ Dapper, and because I want to know about the sort of that cross between creativity and organizing, creativity and activism. And I see it in Brave Space. I also see it a lot in just like the personal work that you do. And like, how do you leverage art and creativity to not only curate community but also engage in activism?
Oh, man. Okay. So
I know where to start, right?
What I view as activism might be a little bit more broad than what maybe the average person looks at it. So for instance, we actually just celebrated, my collective, Small World Collective, just celebrated
3 years, right? Yeah.
3 years of a particular party called Energy. It was every week for 3 years, every single Sunday, no breaks, even when I was in the hospital, when whatever, no breaks. And it was free. And it was in South Loop. Wow. And it was free. You
got to, yeah. For people who don't know.
It was free. And that is a form of activism for me, right? Mm-hmm. Creating space for folks who wear, and I loved Energy because it was queer church. It was queer Black folks church, straight up. And I was the preacher. My wife was an associate pastor. Okay. So, and communion was Hennessy. It just is what it was. Okay. I guess we get into a different type of interview now.
Yeah,
okay?
You're right.
Because Jae Rice from Brave Space Alliance is a little different than DJ Dapper on a Sunday night after a few shots. So, and that was how we showed our activism. And that is how we showed up for the liberation of our people, was creating space. This wasn't just a party. And it might have started out like that, but it quickly turned into a brave and a safe space for folks. Mm-hmm. It turned into, you know what? I'm a Black queer woman. Where can I go to be safe where I know I'm not going to get hit on by some like cis dudes? Mm-hmm. I know the music's going to be good. There's food and there's community. These people, like, it was like Black queer cheers up in there. Like, man, you would come in, everyone knew each other. And don't let it be pride. You know, now we got like a certain number of people in there where we definitely maxed it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And shirts are off and it's sweaty and the whole bar is swag surfing and that's liberation right there.
You're right.
And we forget that you can get liberated through entertainment, through nightlife. And Chicago has always had a history of queer Black people getting liberated through music, through partying, through house music, through community in that way. You know, it wasn't a bunch of money. It wasn't like, oh, it's a $40 cover and then another $100 for a VIP section. It's not that, which, hey, people who do that, get your money. But that's not what we wanted to do at Small World Collective. That's not what we wanted to do at Energy. And that's why it lasted so long. The only thing that cut it off was COVID. You know, and then after that, we went virtual for about 2.5 months.
yeah. Even then, I saw you setting up all the phones. You got your DJ equipment, and you setting up for your set, which I thought was not only creative, but I thought it was so amazing that you still wanted to get that out there, and you'd be surprised the ways that people connected things. Even when
it was so cool.
Yeah. Talk about
what made the virtual thing cool, and it was so cool that when we do decide to throw parties again, whenever that'll be, it won't be anytime soon. But when we do decide to do that, we're going to keep that virtual element because, you know, we got people in the UK, like, really? There's people in South Africa under the comments like, I set an alarm for this. You know what I mean? for just us DJing. And then, you know, Instagram got real tight with the shutting DJs down and stuff like that. And
really?
Instagram's horrible for that. Twitch is on its way too, of censoring DJs and music and stuff like that. So it's hard to be a virtual DJ right now.
Got you.
Yeah, in the beginning, you know, you had a whole bunch of DJs jumping on and it's whatever. Then they started, we get cut off in the middle of our set. So Small World Collective, my wife and I started that. My wife, who, oh my God, we will be married 10 years coming up in this February. Yeah.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. We ran away to Iowa and got eloped when we were 19. So we've been going strong. We grew up together. And when growing up together, you party together. And we met in college. Right. We met in college. We had a townhouse in college. So we had a party house. We've been throwing parties ever since we got together. And then we got back to Chicago and realized, well, and especially my identity back then as a Black lesbian, it is, where do we go to party? You know, where and consistently party. I'm not talking about something that's once a month. Yeah. You know, which is nice, which is cool, which is necessary. But where are the spaces that are for us, by us? You know what I mean? Same kind of going back to Brave Space, like this for us, by us resource. There are no men behind Energy. We do not book male DJs. We do not book male chefs. The only male that you will see is maybe the owner of the establishment and our designated bartender who I would make, who we had to give a queer 101 theory class to, but he was receptive.
But you're right, yeah.
And then that was the other space. That was the other thing, is that whatever space we did go to, you're going to respect us. So that's going from security to the owner to the bartenders. Don't be in here disrespecting people's pronouns. Do not question people's, just because their appearance looks different than what their gender marker is on their ID. That's none of your business. We've gotten into it with security. We've gotten into it with bartenders, because we're not going to call a space a safe space and you not feeling safe. I don't care what you do on the rest of the week, but on Sunday nights, these bathrooms are gender neutral. And we created our own signs, laminated them, and everywhere we go, those bathrooms are going to be gender neutral. If you have a problem with it, I will take myself and my audience and all of their money that they spend on liquor somewhere else, which is what we did at Energy at first. We were somewhere else in University Village. The owner was not only racist and homophobic, assaulted my wife and I a few times. Was always, under the influence of some drug, held us hostage at one point, and told us to play as if this was this was some minstrel show that we had created, and it was just a lot. And again, we did not want to bring people to a space that has white supremacist books in their library. You know what I mean? I'm back there DJing and I'm like, who is this? So we moved, and we moved to a spot that was Black owned. We moved to a spot that understood, hey, these people are queer. I understand that your spot is not a queer spot, but on some days it is. And we made that so apparent that Tantrum got nominated for the best lesbian bar in Chicago by the Chicago Reader off of our one night. We're like, what?
Well, congratulations to you on that.
But that's the big impact, is I want to show up. We will show up. My wife and I and the rest of our partners will show up as queer and as Black as we need to be in order to provide safe space for y'all. There's so much that people don't understand what we went through as intentional promoters. There's promoters, and then there's curators.
You're right.
Promoting a party is one thing. Curating a space, because energy, and if I'm talking too much, cut me off.
No. Please.
Energy is my baby, so I can talk about that for days.
Talk about it.
It wasn't just a party, right? This is queer church. So you're gonna have our plug of the week, which is a queer Black woman or Black or brown woman in the community that's doing something dope, right? From a childcare to a nail tech to a OBGYN to a mayoral candidate.
Oh, stop it.
And I was there, added energy, yes. She was at a day energy. We had her. So you never know what you're going to hear. You mean this dope Black woman with locks running for mayor is at the queer party? Why? Because that matters. And because my degree is in political science. So that matters. That matters to me. It matters to be able, this is how you leverage it. I'm going to come here. We're going to party, right? We're going to take some shots. I'm going to probably buy y'all some drinks. Oh, but wait, listen to this mayoral candidate right here and what she's going to do with it and what she's going to do.
Yes.
And how identity politics plays a role. We're teaching you about this because I reached out to someone who was the queer Black mayoral candidate and no one hit us back. So, it is teaching and opening up your eyes, just like skin folk ain't all kin folk. Your queer folk ain't your fam ain't always your fam. So it was nice to introduce folks to that. And that was the same night that we had a burlesque dancer as an entertainment. So it's a spectrum.
That is super dope. And I kind of want to ask your DJ expertise. I love asking DJs this when I get a chance to run across them. What are 2 or 3 songs that you play to get people in to as you have said, make them sweat?
Nug if you buck. I write since
you better stop that. You're talking about high school for me right there.
Oh yes. Nug if you buck, come on. And it's I when I tell people I'm a DJ, I'm like, I'm also like a conjurer. I evoke emotion in you, and it's so, it's so brilliant to see, because it's 3 steps, right? You're on the dance floor, right? And DJ's playing whatever. But then you hear it, no. It's just that, boom, no, right? And you see someone hearing, and then there's get to your right? But before you come in the club shaking your dress, throwing these balls and running these heads, before you do that, you done already put your drink down.
You're right.
And it's an evocation. It is, and that's what church is. You catch the Holy Ghost
True.
That is, I want you to catch it. So Nothing Few Buck is one. I am also an open format DJ and I spin everything. My other one, and I don't care it does not matter the demographic of the club. When I fucking drop Panic at the Disco, I Write Sins Not Tragedies, and I've maybe mixed it with Back That Ass Up, that is, and I've gotten my biggest reactions of that song in more black spaces.
Stop it.
More black spaces. Yes.
Oh man.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. My mind is trying to wrap around this because I can't even imagine it.
I'll send you some video.
Yes. Please do.
I'll send you. Matter of fact, I think there's one on my Instagram at Energy, and that's playing, and you just see all these black queer folks just like loving it. And the thing about Energy is that it was not a you can't sit with me type of place. You know what I mean? It was very welcoming. It was no matter your socioeconomic status, no matter what you did for a living, everyone was there. Like I said, from politicians and neurosurgeons to service workers. And that is what was the beautiful thing about Energy, is that you had everyone from every walk of life, people from out of town, whatever. But yeah,
I was about to say,
I think I owe you a third song. Third song is Brighter Days.
Brighter Days.
Brighter Days, yes. Lift me up. Lift me up, I want you lift me up. That's that.
Okay, all right, yeah. I'm starting to see it.
Okay. Where are you from?
I'm from Florida originally, Tallahassee.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know you're not from Chicago, and not knowing what Brighter Days, but that is a Chicago house song, and it is intergenerational. It is intergenerational. I don't care if I'm at somebody's mama's 80th birthday or somebody's bat mitzvah, like, you know what I mean? Brighter Days comes on and it's like, man, it takes over. So those are my three. Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I heard when I first moved here that Chicago was like a big in the house scene.
Chicago is the house scene. Hold up, I'm gonna listen.
Excuse me.
See, you told me to correct you. You told me to correct you earlier. Chicago is house. House is Chicago. You know, have you heard of the Chosen Few picnic? I have not. No. It's Black Woodstock. It happens every year. This year, of course, it was virtually. It literally is Black Woodstock, and it's full of house heads, right? It is full of old Black people that love house music. It is the essence of Frankie Knuckles and the rest of those, and Lori Branch and those old school house DJs at the Warehouse. Because actually, house music, the name house music, came from a club back in the day in Chicago called the Warehouse. Wow. And you had people like Frankie Knuckles and other folks who were making this music at the Warehouse in Chicago, and we're like, okay, call it house music. and that's where it came from. You know, not these white boys who are in Vegas, you know, making $1 million. Not them. House music, and one thing that I always like to point out, because people do forget this, house music is Black queer music. Really? House music is Black queer music. Frankie Knuckles came from the damn bathhouses in New York. So yes, it is very queer. It is the DJs who were making it were queer. We're gay, we're lesbians, the you know what I mean? So yeah, it is Black queer music, and that's an aspect that people like to forget. Even, you know, with the evolving of it with techno and in Detroit, even those spaces were Black queer spaces. So
okay, and I tend to agree with you. Just about music being sort of a platform for activism, and like you say, and like you said before, you know, like, I really appreciate that you curated that space on a consistent basis. And like I said, it wasn't a one-off festival. It wasn't something that was done like every couple of months. It was something that you were passionate about and something that you intentionally created, and which allows other people to not only come and experience it, but once you have set that standard, once you have set that model, now it says, oh, it can be done and it can be replicated. And so the next person can do, and like you said, create that network. So I really appreciate you just like taking the time out, like I said, to talk to me. I learned a lot today. Now I know Chicago is the house scene. Maybe one last question before I go. Where do you get your t-shirt collection? Because you got another t-shirt that says everything you love about America is because of Black people. And I just need to know.
So I either make my own t-shirts.
Okay, all right.
Or the Silver Room in Hyde Park, which is actually our neighbors in Hyde Park, to BSA. I get them there. So if y'all are wanting some really cool t-shirts, I recommend the Silver Room. That is where I get them. 53rd Street. One of my partners is the manager. It's an amazing, just black as hell store. So yeah, that's where I get them from. That's where I get them from.
Okay. So before we go, I want you to let people know how can they apply their aggressive allyship to both Brave Space and yourself as well. What are the things that you need? What do you think? What are the things that you want to see people assisting you with or supporting you with?
Right. I mean, there's so many ways that you could donate to Brave Space directly. And that is a way to actually give aggressive allyship, because you're giving back to groups who have boots on the ground. You're giving back to a group who is doing aggressive resource reallocation. You know what I mean? It's not just hoarding money or anything like that. It is, no, we're actually putting this right back into the community. So doing your research on these different charities and things that you like, that people are funding is part of aggressive allyship. We have a building fund going on right now to make a more equitable and affirming location for queer, trans, Black people on the South Side and West Side. So, I mean, donating to that, and not just donating, but you can become a monthly donor for Brave Space Alliance. You know what I mean? Yeah. And at whatever amount you want, from 1 to 100, whatever you want, you can become. And because sustainability is something that does not get talked about enough, in my opinion. It's great. These fundraisers, yes, they're great, but we also need to focus on sustaining the livelihood of Brave Space Alliance, because that directly sustains the livelihood of Black, queer, and trans folks all around the city of Chicago, but especially West Side and South Side. But yeah, I would like to see more people be reoccurring donors to Brave Space Alliance and other orgs. I'd like to see more allyship, more direct allyship. Do you know a Black person? Why don't you go buy lunch today? Like, I don't know. Like, like more direct yes. allyship. You see someone getting followed in the store, then why don't you say something? You know what I mean? So I would like to see more of that, just as a whole. Being more intentional with what we need to do, and I'm sorry, my dog is back here.
Oh, no, don't worry.
Going crazy. Devontae. Okay. His name's Devontae. He's a human, really. But yeah, that's what I want. Tori, can you come get him? He's chasing the cat. It's bad.
He wants attention. Okay.
Yeah. Usually he pops up so he didn't do that today. I had to talk with him beforehand. I'm like, please do not. Like, these real serious conversations I'm having. He's like, but yeah, that's what I would want to see more of. I want to see more sustainability. I want to see that, and I want to see more direct allyship. Nice. Worry about the livelihood of not only Black people as a whole, but I'm not telling you to go sponsor a Black person like just for $5 a day you can help. No, that's not what I'm saying. Yeah. But what I am saying is that maybe you should be more invested in the livelihood of individual Black people as well as Black people as a whole. Because Black lives may matter to you, but does this particular one matter to you?
Yes.
You know, so that's what I would like to see more of.
I would go so far as say, even within our own community, worrying about the lives of others, because sometimes that tends to get washed over, and I don't want that to do. It's like something that also we need to be mindful about as well.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why Brave Space, we make sure that we do have a presence at different actions and rallies and things like that. Folks forget that, the Black Lives Matter movement was started by queer Black women. You got Rustin Bayard, who was a queer Black man who, technically wrote the "I Have a Dream" speech. Who was there would be no civil rights movement if it wasn't for the closeted and uncloseted queer Black people. And we forget that. So it's like when people say Black Lives Matter, well, do you mean trans Black lives? Do you mean sex worker Black lives? Do you mean Black women lives? Because it doesn't seem like that's the case sometimes. It doesn't seem like it. So that is one of our responsibilities, even as an organization. And that's why we're out there. We're like, yes, the trans community, the Black trans community was out there. I don't know about the rest of you all, but we were here. And that feels good. That feels good. Despite anywhere I'm speaking or anything like that, just to be there and give support to folks as a Black trans organization is is fulfilling in so many other ways. Kind of going back to your question of like, does it feel like a duty or obligation? Like, no, it just is, because it's euphoric.
Yeah,
it's literally euphoric to be out there, and you're feeding people, and it's like, this is trans food. So it's expanding people's minds in a different way, and that is how you leverage your voice with activism and with progress, is because, hey, if you've got some homophobic folks coming to our pantry, there's no way that we know that, right? There's not like a list, like, are you homophobic? There isn't a survey for that. But if I'm looking at statistics, there has to be. That right there makes me feel good. It makes me feel the necessity of it. Like, oh no, you're going to come to this LGBTQ center and get this food. Or not eat. So, and it feels good to be expanding people's minds in that way. So, like you mentioned, we are left out of the conversation. There are trans women right now getting beheaded. The amount of rage you have to behead somebody, like,
exactly. Yeah.
But that's not getting talked about. And we're getting attacked by people in our community. We're getting attacked by people who have the same skin color as us. So, intersectionality gets weird when we're talking about, intersectionality. But yes, we are forgotten. We are, and we are getting killed. Tony McDade was killed by an officer.
Yeah. Right in my hometown. Yeah. That was,
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're right. It even takes within our own community to lift up these voices to also address, because like you said, under that umbrella, Black Lives Matter, all Black lives have to be addressed, and we can't forget about some of those. So I appreciate you expanding on that, talking about that. Honestly, I could talk to you for a lot longer, but I'm sure you got plenty of things to do. I know your schedule is packed. So I thank you again for everything. Give the people your socials, your contact, where they can find you if they need to, if they want to learn more about you.
Oh, okay. So you got Brave Space Alliance. We are at Brave Space Alliance on Instagram. We are BS Alliance on Twitter. I am Angela Davis's sugar baby on Twitter.
You ain't even tell us.
I don't think she knows yet, but she will.
Yeah, okay, got you.
I am also DJ Dapper _Chicago on Instagram. You can also follow my artist collective, Small World Collective, on Instagram too. We are a artist collective. We are also polyamorous activists. Look, that's something we didn't even get into.
I know. Next time, I got to talk to you again. Now I got to talk to you again.
Just email me. We'll do that. We'll do a whole one on that.
I got you. Yeah.
So yeah, if you're looking for polyamorous exposure through a Black and a queer lens, at Small World Collective.
I really appreciate it. Jae Rice, thank you so much. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. I appreciate you.